This, Yeah, let me just double check. Yeah, I think we should be good. Da-da-da.
Wow.
All right, we're doing it. So this timer now, not to make this the saga of the timers, starts at an hour for some reason.
That's weird.
Yeah. I don't know why.
I was just looking at the Metascore thing.
Yeah.
And like the first like 7 or 8 are all 100. And then the next highest is 75. It's like, wow.
Oh.
That's strange.
Yeah.
Is this for the right? Oh, it is for the right movie. Okay. See all reviews on Metacritic. Maybe they just like pulled the highest and the lowest one because it's like
or like the most recommended or
Yeah.
favorited or whatever.
Yeah, but it seems like it's a really strange jump. I actually don't know how Metacritic works.
Well, like difference between Metacritic and Rotten
yeah.
Tomatoes is Rotten Tomatoes you either give it a thumbs up or a
Right.
thumbs down.
Right.
But Metacritic does like
Out of 100.
yeah.
Okay.
And you can grade your review like independently, I believe.
Oh, I see.
Like you could, write a scathing review and then you could like give it 60% or something.
Yeah, I see. Okay, never mind. I'm looking at them all now, and it's just like the link that IMDb gave, whereas like the first 7 were all 100, and then the next one was 75. But this one has a 91 and an 88, and also a 42. This guy from the Baltimore Sun just did not like this movie.
Yeah,
interesting.
I feel like smaller paper writers sometimes just like trash a movie everybody loves just to like get notoriety sometimes.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. It's the world of getting clicks. I'm more interested to see what he has to say than like all these other guys that gave it 100%.
Yeah, I suppose so. Well,
what movie are we even talking about, Jared?
We've been talking about this. Hang on. This podcast is called How About?
Oh, yeah.
The movie we've been talking about is There Will Be Blood.
Yeah.
The 2007 Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Description from the IMDb is a story of family, religion, hatred, oil, and madness, focusing on a turn-of-the-century prospector in the early days of the business. Starring Daniel Day-Lewis and Paul Dano are the only, like, two people of note, pretty much. Yeah, so talking about reviews, I haven't read, like, I don't know, I'm not a fan of movie reviews all that much. The way they're kind of classically have been done, or recently are people been doing them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a more or less a movie review podcast.
Yeah, but we're not like...
But we don't know anything, so
yeah,
I feel like
I think we're very upfront, and I hope, or at least I hope we are, that we don't have much knowledge about this. We're just like two people who are fairly analytical, being poorly analytical about this stuff for about an hour.
Yeah.
Just like for the fun of it. Like, I don't ever want to be like bashing a movie. Like even the couple of like maybe 1 or 2 movies we haven't liked on here, I feel like we haven't gone after them, which is like something that movie reviews do, and that makes me dissatisfied. Like I'd rather like talk with my friends about whatever it is, and like we both have annoying views on movies that either of us likes.
Right. I feel like none of the movies we've watched, like either of us have. Like, this hasn't been, like, a strong negative reaction.
Yeah.
Like, at the worst, it's been, like...
Lukewarm, Dumpling, and then you for About Time.
Right, where it's just more or less just, like, meh.
Like, just, like, not our speed of movies.
Yeah, I can't even, like, get up in arms about anything.
Yeah.
Which maybe made those reviews boring. I don't know.
I suppose. I mean, we still talked about some interesting stuff, I feel like. It's just like we have less substance, too.
Yeah.
Or we take up less time, like as opposed to like the Avengers thing, which was just us like raving, going nuts about that movie.
Anyways, back to There Will Be Blood.
Yeah.
Jared, you'd seen this movie before.
I have. So this is another one of the Academy picks picked by our friend Keith. So yeah, I'd watched this because I'd gone on like a sort of Paul Thomas Anderson bender of I was just watching a bunch of his movies. For no reason other than I think the first one I watched was the one about the dressmaker.
Phantom Thread?
Phantom Thread, yeah. Okay. So I watched Phantom Thread because I think it was like on HBO and I had HBO at the time, and I was like, oh man, this movie is like hitting all these weird buttons that I never knew I had, like watching movies, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll watch Paul Thomas Anderson because people have been saying, hey, yeah, you should, people like really like this, and people like I respect and stuff. So yeah, I checked it out. This is like probably the second one I watched, I think. And I was also like, yeah, this is just like scratching every itch movie making wise that I never knew I had. Yeah, so it was great. Okay, Kevin, this is your first time watching it.
Yeah, I had never seen this
What do you
movie.
think?
Actually, I have never seen a single Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Yeah?
Of course, like I've heard about Punch Drunk Love and Phantom Thread came out so recently, and wasn't it like nominated?
It was nominated for an Oscar, as was DDL, the Venerable Daniel Day-Lewis.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, I've of course heard of that movie. I've even heard of Magnolia. Is that the one with the...
That's the one with Tom Cruise, and there are a bunch of people in L.A.?
Okay, no, I haven't heard of this one, but...
Okay. That's a good one.
I think I'm confusing it with Melancholia. And they're not the same.
Yeah, probably. I mean, they're both like M. They might have been made around the same time, too.
You know, who knows? I'm not, again, not super knowledgeable. We're not pretending to be knowledgeable, though. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, I've never seen this movie before. This is the first time I watched it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a feeling about watching it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this movie, I think I mentioned this when we were talking about it with our with the Goon Squad, and I said it reminded me of a book I would have had to read for like AP English.
Yeah.
In that there's like a lot of really heavy symbolism in this movie, I feel like. And you know, the first time you're watching a movie, you're just trying to like kind of get a feel for what's happening, and like you notice things, like you notice things and you're like, well, what the fuck does that mean? But you're trying to keep up with the plot, you know, and like trying to, you know, like listen to what people are saying. So you can't really focus on it too much. So in general, I would say that I had a very positive reaction, or not very positive. I had a positive reaction to this movie. Yeah. But it would definitely benefit from a rewatch or two.
Yeah. And do you feel inclined to like search this movie out again at some point?
At some point, yeah. Definitely not like immediately. I didn't feel the need. I don't feel the need right now to like go rewatch it again to like figure stuff out.
Yeah. How does this compare to like, are there any movies that you have watched that you are like, oh, I want to watch this immediately after, or like that like really synced up with, like, you know, sometimes metaphors like take a lot of thinking to get, and sometimes metaphors just like kind of click to you. Like if you get that reference, you get that sort of approach.
Right.
Like, are there any movie, like, how does this compare to any of those, if you have any?
I can't think of any off the top of my head, except for like spectacle movies, where I'm like, I want to see the big lights and explosions again.
Yeah, like Avengers.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, like, a movie like this is, like, much more of, like, a full meal as opposed to, like a really fun, like, dessert.
Yeah. It's kind of hearkening back to, like, the old-timey epics, like the epic movie, like a Cleopatra, or like the Ten Commandments, or like a Ben-Hur type movie of like, it's like a full, I mean, it is a full story as opposed to just sort of the beginnings of one, which is kind of what I feel like movies have turned towards now, because you have sequels and whatnot.
Right, yeah. TV. It's much easier to get a sequel greenlit. Although I don't know if a movie like this would get a sequel.
I think it would not. Like, it's purposely built not to, because otherwise you would have made like 2 90-minute movies.
Yep.
Or like a mini series.
Yeah. I mean, it reminded me a lot of not a Grapes of Wrath, the other one, East of Eden.
Oh yeah,
by Steinbeck.
The movie?
No, the book.
Okay.
I haven't seen. Is there a movie for the East of Eden?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a movie for both of East of Eden, and
I know there's a movie for Grapes of Wrath because I watched part of it.
I haven't watched either of them, nor read either of the books.
Okay, well, East of Eden is probably one of my favorite books.
Yeah,
yeah. It's just, I think I just read it at a time when I was like first getting into like actual literature.
Yeah,
and like moving away from like kind of light fantasy, and like it's much deeper and has more going on, I would say.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and like really like it really impacted me in a way that I was like, holy shit, what the fuck is happening? This is amazing. Yeah. And I think like 15-year-old me would have loved the shit out of this movie in the similar way, where it has like, not to say that like, you know, I think I was just more filled with wonder and stuff like that back then.
Yeah, and you were kind of like searching for exposure to the bigger world, maybe?
Right, yeah. Searching for something where it's like just deeper. And now that I've experienced a lot more of deeper, like in literature and in movies and stuff, then I'm like, oh yeah, this is really good. But it's not like, it doesn't resonate at quite the same wavelength.
Yeah, like I just rewatched randomly. I didn't watch the full movie, but I started V for Vendetta again, which was like felt like a very formative movie to me in my childhood. And this time through, I was like, this is like kind of hokey and over the top and very preachy in a weird way. And like, I can kind of see how There Will Be Blood is like that, but also for me at least, watching it was just like a filmmaking craft feast of like Paul Thomas Anderson does stuff or has the bravery to do things that other directors don't, or the freedom, or I mean, I don't even know what it is, but he just makes choices that I'm like, oh man, I've been like looking for that, but I haven't been actively seeking out like you know, a long take where you don't cut between characters as they're speaking.
It doesn't do the shot reverse shot thing. It's just like, we're just gonna the camera's just there. They're just doing that. And then once it needs to cut to a different thing,
then it will. But it takes its time. It's not like overly concerned with, we got to get the coverage for everybody, so all the takes can be the best. They got to get good face movements in. It's like, no, I mean, whatever works. And you're serving the purpose of...
it feels more like a stage play than anything else.
Yeah.
Another book that this reminded me of is An American Tragedy, which no one has ever read, apparently. I talked to our high school English teacher, Ms. Meister. And I was like, I read this book over the summer. And she's like, what book? And I was like, An American Tragedy. And she's like, I've never heard of it. And I was like, okay, I guess it's just my dad has read this book, and that's it.
I've never heard of that. What's it about?
It's just about like this guy who is like very poor growing up, and then he, you know, is a very hard worker, and he falls in love with this woman who's also very poor. And they're working at this like factory, and then or something. This is a long time ago I read this book. But then he falls in love with like the rich factory owner daughter person. And then he's like, well, I need to get rid of this poor girl. So he just murders her. So you know, it's like a classic like rise and then fall, right? And then his own like, you know, hubris causes that shit. And I sort of expected that to happen in this movie. And it sort of does. He like kills, spoiler alert. He kills a main character.
Eli Sunday.
Kills Eli Sunday,
And his brother.
He kills his fake brother. And Eli Sunday. But neither of those, like, well, we don't see like the outcome of him murdering Eli, and so like he's already fallen at that point. Our main character, whose name is
Daniel Plainview.
Played by Daniel Day-Lewis. That's right.
Very confusing.
No, I knew it was something like that. I just couldn't remember. Couldn't recall. But he's already like, he falls in a very strange way where like, and I think in like classic literature, like he would be like destitute, and he'd be like fucking broke. And like, he's not. He's like very well, like, it's hard to get a read on how rich he is, but he's still in his house, and he still has like people
and it's
around
like
him.
Huge mansion,
right?
And he's got
and it's
like
implied that
he's
still
stuff.
In charge of like these oil rigs or whatever.
That I think like this, and we talked about it in our discussion amongst our friends, but this is like a very Americana version of sort of a classic tale or like biblical stuff, and that like it's all about oil, and it's all about like that. I think that's a very American ideal, is that when you are at your lowest, you're actually still at the top of like economically wise. Like that has no bearing on your happiness or sort of contentedness. Like I feel like that's a very American ideal in a way.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because in like, again, in a lot of literature, like classic American literature, that's not really the case. Like people
that's true. I guess maybe, I mean, more
that's
modern
what, like,
American.
Maybe more modern, like more modern ideals of stuff like that. I mean, like, it was actually really like almost confusing to me that he doesn't like fall into financial ruin. Like all of his, at the end when he's like talking to his son, it's still like implied that he's like still on top. Sort of
richer than ever.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't have any happiness. Like he's a miserable individual, but like he still has the material wealth. And so, maybe that's like more of a modern twist to how things would have classically played out. I mean, maybe not, but
and it's also hinted at or mentioned in passing, I suppose maybe is the better way, that it is the 1920s, the collapse of the American economy, which is why Eli Sunday comes to see Daniel Plainview. So like he's still on top, but he's not losing his money from that for like.
Well, I mean, he is in charge of a bunch of oil rigs,
right? Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure those industries generally do.
So again, that's a twist on like. Any other character would have like bet it all on something that would have collapsed.
Right, yeah.
And then they would have been, totally screwed.
Would have been like, oh, I'm gonna a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, but instead this is like a subversion of that. But also like this is such a weird movie because it kind of plays into stuff, but then kind of doesn't play into stuff.
Right.
And it just kind of picks and chooses when it does that, which is like from a storytelling standpoint, like I didn't really care either way if it was like trying to be a parallel to any sort of great Shakespearean tale or anything, or because just like as a movie it was entertaining, but then it like that I feel like that's a Paul Thomas Anderson, another kind of trademark of his, is that his movies are very thoughtful and contemplative, but not like openly or overtly that way. Like characters aren't posing those questions to each other, but the characters are living out these situations, and you're kind of meant to or meant not to explore those ideas on your own. Which is what I like. That again, like V for Vendetta thing is like it just gets like so preachy and trying to shove ideas down your throat, and this purposely kind of takes a foot off of the gas and just kind of sits back and lets a lot of stuff play out. Like what do you do as a person who people keep dying in your minds, but you're still getting rich and you're like still hitting that oil? Like, should he have given it up? Should he have not like done all these things? Like no character really asked him that question, except for Eli, sort of.
But Eli has his own issues, so like you really can't take his. Yeah,
exactly.
He has no real legs to stand on in terms of.
He's not like the angel of this sort of story. He's just as dirty and corrupt as Daniel Plainview in a lot of ways.
Just in a different way,
Right, yeah.
He's still exploiting people.
Yeah.
It's just different. And I mean, like, someone like Daniel Plainview would just justify as like, well, if I'm not the one in charge of this, someone else is going to do it.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't really matter. These people that are in danger from the oil well are just, it's just going to be someone else.
Yeah, and he firmly believes that he's better than everybody else anyways, which, like, I think like that whole his encounter with that first town. So like after he gets his first oil well in, he goes to that town where there's like literally oil spilling out of that hill.
Right.
And he like tells them straight up, I have the money, I have the people, I will get this oil for you and I'll give some of it back to you.
Right.
Which is mostly the truth, but also like probably just a lie to sell them. And then they like devolve into arguing amongst themselves, and he's basically like, peace out, I'm not going to even bother with this.
Right. Yeah.
'Cause you guys are just kind of like,
wasting time. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And he's not that person, as opposed to like everybody else, all the regular vultures, like that guy from, is it Standard Oil or whatever the other oil person who's like in cahoots with the railroads? Like when he shows up, and that's why like he's so angry, because like many different things come to that, but like that's the sort of typical oil guy who comes in and says, I got the trains and I got the stuff and I'm going to pay you this much money. Then they'll screw you along the line just because like they're more polite up front.
Yeah,
they present sort of as friendlier, but really are just as.
They're just as ruthless and cutthroat.
Yeah. But I really love that whole opening thing. Like the first time I watched it, I was like, why is he at this town? What is this supposed to be? But each successive time I've watched it 3 times, I think, the movie 3 times. I just like get more and more out of that, because it's like the movie is so specific so often that like that has to be specific. And the specificity of that is just like a microcosm of how stuff can go badly, and like what his whole deal is, and like what his relationship with his son is like. It demonstrates all of that in one sort of fell swoop, which is like so interesting.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild movie.
Yeah, like it's hard to imagine writing that.
Yeah, again, it was a. I don't know if we mentioned it, but it was loosely adapted from...
the book Oil by...
Upton Sinclair.
Yes.
Yeah, the guy who wrote The Jungle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't read either of those.
Yeah, I read The Jungle. It's a very sad It's a very sad book.
Oh, I mean, it's classic American literature.
Yeah.
How can it not be sad?
Yes, they're all very sad. I can't actually think of one that's not sad.
Yeah. The Great Gatsby. Oh, wait, no, that's super sad.
Well, that one's just boring. But
whoa. Shots
we're not talking about that right now. Something
fired.
that I noticed, again, this is just like my first watch, so I don't notice a lot. But I feel like maybe this is not even true, but in a lot of scenes, like it just sort of opens and starts like playing. There's not really like an establishing shot. So I feel like most of the time in a movie, when you have a scene like where Daniel Plainview is talking to like the group of people, you have like a big wide shot of like all these people and him.
Yeah.
So like all these people are standing and then he comes into the frame, or like it's like, you know, it's his view sort of looking out over these people, and then it switches to like show like, oh, he's the one talking.
Yeah.
But you know, it doesn't do that. Like it's like just like a close up of him, I think. Like
so it starts with him after the baby's dad gets killed, and so he's
on the train
with the kid on the train and with the kid, and then his voice starts coming over, and it plays over the scene of them on the train, but it's him explaining to the townspeople like, I have got a well that just came in, I have all this money, and then it like fades to, I think it's shots of it is his face,
isn't it?
And like it's the crowd's making noise, and it's just like a slow push on his face as he's talking.
Yeah.
And then like when he finishes, like the room erupts, and then like we kind of like look around the room a little bit.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, but when you do that, you're like giving the audience such little amount of information that like, you know, you're kind of on the edge of your seat, and like it just creates like tension.
Yeah, it's like,
where
where is he talking?
Right,
like,
who is he talking to?
Why?
What's happening?
Yeah,
like what is going on? Also, like he changes his like facial hair like drastically, I think.
Does he?
Or he's just dressed differently, or something.
I think he has the hat on, maybe.
Okay, maybe. Yeah, he's got a pretty signature.
Yeah, he looks
hat.
a little bit different. But also, it links him and the kid on the train to this speech that he's giving to these people in like a weird way of like, why does this matter exactly? Like as you're watching it the first time, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
But then it makes sense that
there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense until you like think back on it.
Right.
Like just the very first scene of the movie.
Yeah.
The very first shot is like him like with a pickaxe like hacking away at this rock.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what the fuck is happening? Why is this dude doing this thing? Like, I know, like I mentioned in our discussion, that like the first thing he does is he breaks a bit of the rock, and then he shoves a bit of dynamite in, and then he lights the fuse, and then he tries to haul out of the hole, and he's like pulling up the stuff.
Yeah.
But it doesn't like work because like he's not fast enough.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just so like weird.
Yeah.
Like, because in your brain, you're like, oh, just like light the fuse from a safe distance.
Well, okay. So I didn't say anything at the time, but
is
that
there
long
a
of a
for
fuse would have like taken such a long time to go off. And also, like, you don't want to like throw the dynamite into the pit.
You don't want to throw the dynamite
that'll
in the
blow
pit.
it up.
Yeah. And you don't want to like go deeper into a hole because then you'll just get buried.
And I assume he had done this before. Like, it's definitely not the safest thing. Because, like, when that ladder breaks, it's like, you just blew up your hole.
Right, yeah.
Of course your ladder's going to be broken.
And, like, all of his shit was, like, slamming into stuff. So, it's a weird way to open a movie, I feel like. And then the score, which we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite, most like disconcerting and strange openings to a movie, which is just, it's a fade in, which like how many movies actually fade in? Like that's like a screenwriting trope is like fade in on this thing, but no movies begin with a fade in. So it's a fade in on those hills and then the strings going,
right, yeah. It's like lots of violins going.
Yeah, and it just like sets your teeth on edge.
Right.
It's like, ugh. Yikes!
Yeah, it's not a comforting sound at all. I mean, the score itself is very like it's very strange in that it doesn't necessarily seem to fit what's happening. Yeah, it doesn't like match things super well.
Yeah, as I said in our discussion, it everything's off rhythm. Yeah. Like often music is in rhythm or at least in tempo with what's happening on screen, and this is like purposely not. Like that opening sting of the violins, that's our only music for like maybe 10 20 more minutes. And it's just like, what what was
right? Because
that?
you're thinking like, what emotion is the movie trying to like put me in?
Yeah,
right?
which is one thing that music often does is just
Right.
elevate or dictate emotion to you.
Yeah, exactly. And so in this, it's like, am I supposed to just feel supremely uncomfortable?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, kind of.
Pretty much, yeah. Because also, like, it does put you in that mindset of who is that person who is alone in the desert digging for gold or silver, whatever, all by his lonesome with a gun slung over his shoulder and like a pickaxe.
Yeah.
Like, who does that? Like a crazy person does that. Somebody who's like, something is up with that person,
Right.
that they're doing that all alone. Like, very unsafe. Like, he could have fallen into that hole and just be dead in that hole. Like, nobody would have discovered him for 500 years.
Can you remind me? So I'm trying to think of the sequence of events. So he like fucks up his leg, drags himself to the like outpost or whatever.
Yeah,
where they like
I
set
think
his
it's
leg.
probably the blacksmith.
Yeah, whatever it is.
We don't see his leg get set, but yeah, we see him.
It is set though.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got like a splint on it, and as they're like making the silver from
as
his, the ore that he has.
Yeah. Okay. So they're doing that, and then he goes back into the hole. And then how does he discover the oil exactly? Does it just start bubbling up?
Yeah, it's like mud there.
Okay.
And then he brings in some other guys.
Okay.
And then they start digging for real oil, like trying to get deeper.
Right. Okay. Okay. And then that's when one of the many oil accidents
Yeah. So
happens.
after they like build the sort of like teeter-totter drill contraption, and then they get oil, then that guy goes down for the first time to check for the oil.
Right.
And then they see that they have like an oil spring as opposed to just like that muck. So like I don't know what the difference between sort of the oil mud and actual like crude oil is, but there's some sort of difference there.
Sure. It's probably
like they got to get deeper to get to the real oil. Then they get real oil, and then they're like dumping it in that pit.
Right.
And so as they're like doing the kind of makeshift buckets to get the oil out,
and then that dude just gets fucking
brained
by that thing.
Yeah.
Does that happen to two people? Or wait,
the other guy gets killed by the drill dropping.
How's the first guy die?
The first guy dies by the
whole
buckets.
thing falls on him, right? Yeah, all the buckets and
because they built like a pyramid type contraption above the hole
thing.
Yeah, and they're just like hauling buckets up and dumping
the triangle is
like that. I thought that was funny. I didn't mention that in the discussion, but like they just dump the oil in like a pit that they dig next to the thing.
Yep,
that's pretty weird.
Yeah, I didn't have anything for that like logically.
Yeah,
like I mean, I guess you have to refine it somehow. I don't know how it worked.
I suppose, yeah. And like he does later talk about that the only way to get oil out is like through the trains, conceivably, or a pipeline.
Yeah.
But like it seems like a weird choice to. But then like I think you probably can't like stop a well, like stopper a well. Like you want to keep that oil flowing.
It just keeps flowing because it's like I think it's just pressurized, right? And like like in the ground somehow.
I don't 100% know how oil works.
I'm not a person who knows
but,
things. We've said that, we've mentioned that many times.
I do know that there is natural gas where oil is.
Yeah, because that's what happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
in the big one that they find.
In the when they buy the
ton of natural
Sunday
gas.
Ranch.
Yeah. There's like a ton of natural gas there.
Right, but does he say that he smells it, or is he just
he hears it because it like rattles up the pipe?
Yeah, yep, okay.
So that second guy who dies though is they have the drill bit and it like gets jammed or something
No, they're moving it and then it swings back.
Yeah, so they take
it.
So they like take a part of the drill bit off though.
Right,
and they're supposed to be holding it.
Yeah, they take part of the drill bit and they put it on the ground. Yeah, standing straight up.
Yep. And then the other part swings, and like the dude
back,
misses it.
And then they can't catch it because it's slippery, and then it falls down and hits that dude right in the fucking face.
Yeah. Yeah. This, another Paul Thomas Anderson hallmark, is just like sudden, brutal violence or gore and stuff like that.
Right.
Which is very, like, disconcerting and surprising. Which is like, fun, question mark? It's an interesting choice, I guess.
It's definitely, I don't know if it's fun. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
And it like...
It's very different, I guess.
It kind of wakes you up.
Yeah.
if you're like kind of getting into a rhythm of what the movie is doing, and then all of a sudden like something fucking crazy happens.
Yeah.
Like some dude just gets fucking killed.
Yeah.
Because
like, it's not like
God.
full jump scare.
No,
but it's like
it's
in
just
that
like shocking. Yeah, it's in that realm where you're like kind of sort of comfortable with what the movie is doing, and it's like, no, don't be comfortable. Some dude's about to get destroyed by a big ass piece of metal.
Yeah. You know what I just realized? We didn't introduce ourselves.
No, that's fine. It's fine. You can introduce us at the end.
I'll just put a little tag at the beginning.
Or
record a little tag.
Yeah.
I don't know why I just realized that.
30 minutes in.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking our voices are kind of similar.
Yeah, it's fine. Anyone who's listening to this probably knows us personally anyways.
Yeah, I suppose. Let's see. So speaking of the oil, first off, I wondered like what they used to make that oil, but also when they strike oil at the first well that we see Daniel Plainview at, he like when they bring the oil bit up, he like wipes his hand on the oil and like shows it to everybody. Like I just thought like that was so weird.
Yeah, sort of like a Simba moment.
Yeah,
that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah,
and it's because they didn't want to have like dialogue. I think at that moment, they didn't
which is another disconcerting thing of
right, but it's very appreciative. I think.
Yeah,
like we like.
That makes sense. Like a bunch of dudes working, digging a pit aren't going to be like, yeah, what'd you do last weekend?
Right, yeah. I mean, I don't need the movie to tell me like, oh, it's oil, motherfucker, pay attention. Like it's like kind of cool to see like it's like a different way to explain things.
Yeah. But also about that, I feel like oil smells terrible.
Yes.
Like, I mean, they're wearing masks and stuff. So, like, why would you? I mean, it's the Old West, but like, I wouldn't want to touch that oil.
Well, that's
like get it all over me.
Unless you like start drinking it or fall down the well.
I guess. I mean, I do have a uncontrollable urge to drink whatever's like brown and sticky around. Mm-hmm. Anyways, let's see. Oh yeah, having lived in California for a little while, I recognize the very Californian desert and desert plants and stuff.
Yeah,
I was like, hey, I know those trees. Cool.
Yeah, they're like those shrubby things.
Yeah. Yep. Or like the short little trees with the little round leaves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought, so in terms of like them not having dialogue for most of that beginning bit, like I couldn't figure out if that's like the bare minimum or is that just right in terms of like showing and telling stuff in a movie, or like the score, like is that bare minimum scores or is it just like perfectly kind of a tuned score? You know what I mean? Yeah,
I think it's very deliberate. I don't know if I would say like it's necessarily 100% the right choice in either of those.
Like, is it minimalist?
It's not really minimalist though. Like, it's just very like it's supposed to like draw you in, and like I think it's like part of the reason why like the shots are so long. Yeah, it's because like a long take, what it does to your brain is it's like. It's like giving you information, right? The movie is giving you information with what's on screen. Yeah. And your brain is like, okay, this is what's happening. I can understand this. But when it like focuses on something for so long, your brain's like, wait, okay, did I not get it? Yeah. Like, what else is the movie trying to tell me? And then like, especially for a movie like this, when like the music is like making you very uncomfortable and like the things that people are doing, like also is just kind of weird. Like it's not like weird, like inherently weird.
Yeah, it's but unusual.
Like, it's just unusual, yeah. And so like you're constantly like, what the fuck is happening? Like your brain is sort of crying out for more information. Yeah. And I think like it all sort of wraps into that. Like the lack of dialogue is like, dialogue is just a tool to like relay information again. And so like you can't get information in that way if there's no dialogue.
Right. And you have to like summon it from like kind of imagine it more. Right. Like I feel like
you have to infer a lot of what's happening.
Yeah. Like the best or my favorite example of the one shot that really works is when Eli's brother, what's his name?
Paul.
Yeah, Paul Sunday comes to tell them about the Sunday Ranch.
Right.
Like it's a single take of him like entering the door, talking to a couple of people, going to see Daniel, and like you just follow Paul for all of that, and there are people speaking off out of frame, off camera. And so like you have to imagine what they're thinking, but you are only watching what Paul's reactions are until it then cuts to shot, reverse shot.
Right.
But like that leads you to think like what might Daniel be like thinking about this? Like we hear what he's saying, but like you kind of have to put yourself more in that situation as if you were sitting in the spot of that camera and watching these people happen.
Right.
Which is like that. I feel like that's how you should use one shots to sort of supplement your storytelling.
It's just a way to try to engage your audience, I think.
Yeah.
And it'll like turn some people off.
Yeah.
But like the ones that don't get turned off will be like more engaged, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of engagement, how was the pacing of this for you? I know you're a big pace.
It's fine. I think things like went on pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Whenever I was like confused at what was happening, like it like became apparent what was happening pretty quickly, and it was never like, I guess like the only thing that was like that like that I couldn't really get past right away was the fact that Eli and his brother Paul are played by the same actor.
Yeah.
And it was like, wait, is that the same character who was lying about his name at first? Like, and then it's like, no. And then it's like, oh, they mentioned Paul. Okay, so he's a real person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just, but like, yeah, so I wanted more information about that more quickly.
Yeah.
But I think other than that, like, the pacing is pretty brisk, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, it's not too slow.
Yeah.
For sure. And it doesn't feel rushed either. Like, the things that are happening, like, it's stretched out with, like, time skips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that it
but
doesn't
everything
feel
like
bogged down.
In each of those sort of vignettes, I guess, always plays out to whatever the end result of those things are.
Right, yeah. And then it never, like, somehow it's edited in such a way so that, like, when they buy all the stuff, they buy all the land, they lease it from all the Sunday neighbors.
Yeah. I really like that scene where he's talking to, like, the realtor or whomever that was.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably like a city guy or something.
Some city dude, yeah.
Yeah. But he's like looking at the map. He's like, "Who owns this?" He's like, "The Johnsons." And who owns it? The Smiths.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just great.
Yeah, but like when they build that initial well thing, like it didn't seem like it was like, oh, and then they have this, you know?
Yeah,
like, I think there's probably shots of them like constructing it or something, but or like we see it
but
like
there's
partially
not
constructed
like,
at one point, but it doesn't. I think like the big thing is that like the characters are doing enough things in the back in the foreground that like you kind of catching glimpses of the well being built in the background doesn't seem
we don't explicitly spend any time watching them build that stuff.
Yeah.
But we're always conscious of that. They are
it shows up
progress.
Like,
or like when they get the other two wells in, like they just like kind of appear in a scene in the background.
Oh, one thing I did I think miss is why HW decides to set fire to the house. I know he's like kind of upset that the brother has shown up. Yeah. He's like does he kind of get that he'll be replaced?
That's what I thought. So it isn't it isn't explicitly stated, but he does read the brother's diary.
Right.
The real brother's diary.
Right.
And I think somehow from that he knew that guy was a fake brother, is how I interpreted that. And then because he can't speak and he's like kind of being rebellious, but not really. Like just his father hasn't been treating him well. That was the only way to get...
He loses his hearing, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very traumatic, I'm sure.
Right, yeah. But that was the only way to like get his father's attention. So that he like kind of just wants to burn, because he tries to burn the brother to death. Like he doesn't try to burn Daniel in any way.
Well, I mean, it's the
the house would have set on fire, yeah. But like the trail of oil was too.
Right, yeah. I mean, because he looks at like a picture, right? But
it's not a picture. So he reads the journal and then like he gets to a picture, and I'm not sure what that picture showed him exactly, but my interpretation of that was that it showed the real brother, and that this guy doesn't look anything like the real brother.
thought it showed the mother, but I don't know.
Or like maybe the mother and the brother or something, but some clue to that.
Again, it's one of those things that I would have to watch the movie again to figure out. I mean, I could look out that specific scene, but yeah,
it's more fun to watch the movie again.
Right, yeah, because then I'll pick up on other stuff.
Yeah.
I have to remember. Oh, speaking of, when I rewatched Endgame, I did notice that weird continuity thing.
Yeah, with the pancake, yeah.
It was cut and then not cut and then cut again. I was like, oh, wow. Interesting.
Weird, right?
That is weird.
Yeah.
Movie making. Which is like this weirdest thing because I feel like those were, like, are those not just CG?
I felt like they were CG.
Right.
Yeah. Like they looked that way.
So is it like a deliberate choice from like the animators? They're like,
yeah,
I don't give a fuck about this.
Or like, I mean, I could see that they animated like one people animated shooting in one direction and the other people animated shooting another direction. And like they just didn't, and like they cut those two together and didn't take the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And like also, I am such not that person to notice like goofs or bloops or like continuity errors in any way. Like I don't care about that so much. Like that doesn't ruin movies for me in any way. Like it does some people. Like seeing a coffee cup in an episode of Game of Thrones. Like I don't.
Well, that's
care,
just
because I don't notice that stuff.
Sure.
But for whatever reason, I noticed that. I was like, that. Why? Huh.
It's a very strange error.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's no such errors in this movie.
Probably
that
not,
I noticed. We did not. I didn't notice it, but
yeah,
could have been there.
Yeah. I mean, there are probably errors that we don't like historical errors. I bet
it's not as egregious as in The Big Short, where Did you seen that movie?
Yeah.
Margot Robbie is in the bathtub drinking champagne.
Yeah.
And then she says got it, and she picks up like the champagne to drink it, but then it's down, and she picks it up again in the next shot.
Oh,
like it's like so
weird.
Obvious. It's like weirdest thing. And at first, I thought it was like a deliberate choice from the filmmaker to be like, oh, look how like quirky this is.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because he doesn't care about like an error like that. He's just
like they
I
wanted
liked
that take. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked her facial expression in this take better than the other one where she had like it matches better.
Yeah.
But like it's really weird because she like picks it up and then she picks it up again.
Yeah.
And it's like the most obvious thing ever. Yeah. And it's like, oh, he just didn't care about that one thing.
And that like probably kind of plays into the. Do you know about the Kuleshov effect? Or Kalishnikov? No, it's not Kalishnikov. But the effect of like where you see something, it's like if there's a set of writing and there are two thes, like a the at the end of a line and a the at the beginning of a line, you don't notice that there are two thes in it.
Oh, sure.
That like your brain automatically corrects stuff or like typos and things. Like I feel like that's one of those things.
Yeah, maybe.
You just don't notice that. Right. In Star Wars, Vader never says, "Luke, I am your father."
Right, so that's just like
been your father.
That was from
so it's that's like a
robot
pop culture
chicken thing,
Kalishnikov effect. It's still not that. I feel like we should probably look it up.
You can look it up later. Yeah. You can edit it into this podcast.
I mean, I won't. I mean, we never corrected that. I was wrong about that. U.S. citizens can get knighted by the Queen. I was 100% wrong about that. It's just you can't accept gifts from weird. You can't. Public officials can't accept gifts from other countries.
Those are very different things.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I thought they were the same though.
Anyways, yeah.
So if you've been emailing about that, which you haven't, stop. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Yeah. Let's see. Do you know who Paul F. Tompkins is?
Nope.
Comedian Paul F. Tompkins. Okay. Well, he makes a cameo in this. He plays the guy in the town who races after Daniel after he walks out. He says, like, Mr. Plainview, we want your well.
Which
Remember?
guy?
In the first town? That guy who's
looks
like the town
okay.
mayor.
Yep, yeah,
Yeah, that's Paul F. Tompkins. Doesn't really matter. But there's a great episode of the podcast, I Was There Too, with Paul F. Tompkins, where he talks about that.
How he's like a cameo and There Will Be Blood.
Yeah, he's like an extra. Yeah. He talks about Daniel Day-Lewis a little bit. It's a good episode. You should check it out. You have to get Stitcher Premium to listen to it, but it's a good episode. If you like Paul F. Tompkins. Anyways,
I don't know who that is.
I'm talking to our listeners, Kevin. Okay. Oh, my God. He was in Community. He plays a guy who hits on Abed after they talk about some sci-fi show. In Troy's birthday
that
episode.
Guy. Okay, yeah.
He often has a mustache.
Sure.
And a hat.
Yep. Okay, I see.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyways. So that was for nobody except for me.
Yeah. Or anyone else who knows what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Not me, though.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I like that whole showdown between Eli and Daniel after the first time. So, like, first I like that Eli scares Daniel when they're, like, setting up camp, and he, like, just, like, shows up with that goat's milk, I think, maybe?
No, he has wood.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, the wood. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, so, like, that kind of hints towards this is a fake twin situation, that whole interaction they have. Because Daniel's like, who is this weirdo? Mm-hmm. I've seen his face before. And there's like a weird standoff. Mm-hmm. So I like that. But what I like more is when Daniel, he initially, like at the table, starts talking to the father of the Sundays. Mm-hmm. And Eli just like keeps butting in and saying like, I want $6 per acre or whatever it is. And eventually like Daniel like actually turns and looks at Eli after kind of like ignoring him. Just like how all of that played out was so great.
Yeah.
Because like it's like kind of funny, but also like menacing.
Right. Yeah. You're
like
again, you're just like very on edge.
Yeah.
And like, you know, the scene is very dark.
Yeah.
And like, you're not really sure what Daniel is capable of,
and you're not sure if you're supposed to root for him.
Yeah.
Like, is he? I mean, he's the hero of the movie.
Well, he's the protagonist. I wouldn't call him a hero, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a big difference between those two.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he's still, like, you know, not a great person.
No, he's a terrible person.
He kills at least 2 people.
Yeah.
Is kind of complicit in 2 more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those are workplace accidents. You kind of expect that.
But you
can expect that in any workplace. You can expect that in any workplace.
Yeah, you can expect buckets and a bunch of steel beams.
Yeah.
A bunch of wooden beams to collapse on your head in any workplace.
Any workplace.
Definitely.
It can happen.
100%.
You never know what'll happen.
Yeah. But I like, there's also, so that's the beginning of the sort of the Eli versus Daniel kind of battle they have.
Right. Which is kind of like, it's sort of the main conflict. I mean, it is the main conflict, I would say, throughout the
But it's the conflict of one smart, capable person versus another who thinks he's smart and capable, which is my favorite type of conflict. The pretender versus the actual competent person. But the pretender also has power of like, you know, all these people. Like, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, so the thing is like Eli, who you are implying is the pretender in this scenario. He's not completely inept, I feel like, because he is like charismatic enough to get like his townsmen,
I suppose,
to like join his cult. Essentially.
Because he is. I mean, I feel like he was, you know, big shit around town before Daniel showed up. Like he was probably the most popular of anybody in that town, and then Daniel shows up, and they're like, "Oil, we gotta get rich."
Yeah, we're gonna be rich.
And so he's like, you know, uncool.
Texas tea.
Yeah,
black gold.
Yep. It's called Texas Tea?
There's an old TV show. I think it's called like Beverly Hills.
Beverly Hillbillies?
Yeah. And like the opening part of it, when they're on their farm, they find oil. And like the narrator's like, black gold, Texas tea. And that, it's like, wow, okay.
Weird.
I didn't know that was called that. Makes sense. Yeah. Sure. Anyways. What were we saying?
Oh, yeah, Eli and Daniel.
We're talking about Eli and Daniel and how...
You were going to say that Eli actually is competent.
I think Eli is charismatic. Like, he knew what he needed to say, and he knew how he needed to act to get people, like, to join his cult.
Yeah.
It's basically
a church.
It's a church, but, like, let's be real. Like, his specific style of sermon is more similar to like a televangelist.
Yeah, it feels like a very cult of personality. Am I using that term right?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yo, I don't know. I don't know English. I have a very tenuous grasp of this language.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
So I for sure he doesn't wield as much power as Daniel does, just because like Daniel is like actually rich, and like
and is like
actual
truly
power.
Menacing too.
It's sort of like, do you remember that scene in Game of Thrones? I don't remember what season it's in, but it's like a sort of like back and forth between Littlefinger and Cersei, and Littlefinger says something like, "Something is power," and then
Oh yeah, like knowledge is power or something like that?
it's not. I don't think he says knowledge is power. He might say that'd be really lame.
Or like
but anyways,
secrets are power or something
like that. But then Cersei is like, Cersei has all these guards around her, right? And
so she's like, power is power.
Yeah, she says power is power, and that's sort of like their dynamic, right? Where like Daniel has actual power, and Eli has like this pretender power sort of thing, where it's like not full, you know, like
I would say the difference though is that Eli to me doesn't even have that much power with the church. Like all the real power he had was over that one family, whatever their names are, the ones who don't sell their land initially.
Right. But I mean, like everyone in his church was like following along his like creepy, weird vision of exorcising arthritis demons.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a very televangelist, like the power of a healing touch.
Like, and then like, and we don't see his church after he humiliates Daniel with the baptism.
Yeah.
And so we don't know like how his congregation has grown or not, or like shrunk.
But also I feel like a part of that is that they then don't show the church going to like war with the oil people either in any way. Like there's no big showdown of their powers to see who's more powerful.
Right.
It's very much more of a Cold War.
Yeah. Again, I mean, he's asking for a bunch of money.
Yeah, $5,000.
No, at the very end.
Oh yeah,
before the milkshake line, he's like talking about how like they need like a lot more money. Like he's going to give them a lot more money, and then the $5,000 plus interest.
Yeah,
and then Daniel freaks the fuck out on him, but
he beats him to death.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Jesus.
I mean, we already spoiled.
Yeah. But yeah, so like why does he need the money? Like I mean, he needs it probably because he's broke.
Yeah, and he wants money because he wants
money, and
power.
he also like said he made bad investments.
Yeah.
Probably just in the stock market gambling.
Yeah. Because again, he's a dummy. Like he's not that smart.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you can say that about like, because then we're talking about like most of the population of the United States back then that all lost money in the stock market.
No, but okay, yeah. I don't mean that though. But
okay,
I mean like
sure.
Everything surrounding how he copes with him losing all his money.
Right, yeah.
Shows that he's a dummy.
Yeah.
I think.
Sure.
But also, I'm going to go ahead and go on record and say all the U.S. was a bunch of dummies for investing in banks. No, I'm not. That's
they didn't
insane.
Invest in banks, did they?
Well, they gave their money to their banks. It's technically investing in banks.
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, everyone puts their money in banks.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I'm not. That's why
Jared's
I'm not comfortable.
Jared's on the cryptocurrency bandwagon.
Yeah, but not Bitcoin. But
not Bitcoin. Dogecoin.
Oh yeah, is that it?
Well, there's like a billion others.
Is Pepe
like,
the Frog also a
Bitcoin,
cryptocurrency?
But you know, it's really blockchain. The underlying technology is what makes it interesting and what makes it real.
I mean, I want Pied Piper coin is what I really want.
Yep. That was such a strange plot line of that show, I feel like.
Yeah.
They're like,
I mean, it's a pretty fucking weird show.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyways, I like that whole battle though between back and forth between Eli and Daniel. Like, I mean, my favorite part is the trading of the slaps. That so after his son goes deaf in a freak gas accident, gasoline fight accident,
an explosion.
Yeah, he loses all his hearing. And Eli like comes to talk to Daniel about getting his $5,000 finally. Like he just won't give up this $5,000.
Well, yeah, he thinks he keeps it's owed him.
Yeah, but he also like why I think he's a kind of a dummy is that he keeps choosing the wrong time to approach Daniel about this because it like he just keeps setting him off. But anyways,
there's no good time to talk to Daniel about this because Daniel doesn't want to give him the money.
Yeah, so I
mean, I don't think
a smarter person would have just like moved on and like taken some oil money maybe or something. I don't know. Anyways, though, but that fight when he goes to see Daniel like immediately after his son has been deafened.
Yeah.
And Daniel like wrestles him to the ground and slaps him around. I mean, my favorite thing is the little scream that Paul Dano does.
Yeah.
Is Eli, which is like, oh no, stop! Ah! Yeah. Which is just great. And he like literally just like slaps him around in the mud.
Yeah.
That was fun. And then after using that family who won't sell to Daniel to like get him to be baptized, then he pays him back by slapping him around to like expel the evil spirits in him, ?
Yeah, more televangelism.
Yeah. Which I like
he's a sinner.
Yeah. Which is like very clearly, he's like, how can I slap Daniel Plainview?
Yeah.
Hum-dee-dum-dee-dum. Here I go thinking again. Okay, we'll get him baptized because you can slap people when they're getting baptized, right?
Yeah, and it'll work out wonderfully.
Yep. God loves slapping. He just doesn't like punching. If your fist is open, it's okay. If your fist is closed, that's a sin.
Yeah, it's a really weird situation. I like.
Yeah. This is a super weird movie.
The whole thing is really weird, and like the whole like how like Eli is basically a televangelist before televangelism.
Yeah.
Like just is like kind of weird because like how would he have learned any of that? Like I think
probably like reading about it or
right, but like
maybe there was a preacher before him.
Maybe, yeah.
But that feels very true to life in the Old West, though.
Really? Was it that, like, intense?
Well, yeah, because, like, so many of those people going on pilgrimages or whatever were religious people. Like, religious groups, like, you know, Mormons in Utah.
Right.
So they're, like, a very strong...
just a bunch of terrorists.
Evangelist principles. And we're coming from that sort of, like, that the religion rules a town. Wait, what did you just say?
The Mormons were a bunch of terrorists?
Oh, yeah.
Literally, the U.S. government classified them as terrorists.
Yep. Yeah. So that's fun.
Some fun stuff there.
Yeah.
History is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and then he turns into like a radio televangelist.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
right
fun.
before his ultimate comeuppance or downfall. It's brutal murder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also loved that whole scene where the oil light's on fire. That was great.
Yeah, it was very visually intense.
Yeah.
Very cool looking scene. The music is like triumphant.
Yeah.
To match how happy he is.
Yeah.
But this is before he knew that his son was deaf.
Yeah.
This is back in the day. We didn't have
fancy
cochlear implants. Yeah. Again, English.
It would have been funny if like somebody just gave him a trumpet to hear through.
Yeah, I mean, I think like that works for a different thing.
Just if you're like
I mean, his ear bones.
Probably his eardrums.
His earballs were completely
out.
fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's gone beyond tinnitus for sure.
Yeah. He's hearing nothing.
Yeah.
He ain't hearing shit.
Can't hear his own voice.
Yep.
Which is a major yikes.
Speaking of the music, though, the first time when they, so after like he discovers the well and stuff, after buying the Sunday Ranch, I think this is the scene where he's buying up all that land. Is I don't know if it's the first time, but it's a real prominent time of where the music goes like dun 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 dun, and I love that theme. Yeah, it's such a great theme. Yeah,
again, it's a very intense score.
Yeah,
at times, and like what the characters are doing is not necessarily that intense, and so it just makes you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's like kind of a cacophony effect.
Yeah.
Like noise just to be noise a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. But it's really good. It's a great score. Written by Johnny Greenwood, by the way, if you like Radiohead. He's the lead guitarist and also keyboardist.
Guitarist?
Does Radiohead have a keytar?
I don't think so. They should, though.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, we talked about the music being out of rhythm with the film. Like it, even at points starts before anything rousing happens, like the rousing music.
Yeah,
it's very unsettling. Yep. Which is the name of the game in this movie.
Yep, very true.
Maybe that's the pull quote for the episode title.
Sure. Yeah, again, it's like it reminds me of classic American literature.
Yeah,
where like, you know, you read like any number of books, and like East of Eden or like, you know, what I mentioned before, and they're all just like the whole time you're just like, you know, something terrible is going to happen. You just don't know to who or like when or how.
Yeah.
But you know something just fucking awful is going to happen. I don't know. I read a bunch of books recently, not recently, a couple of years ago, and they were all very sad. And it was a very downer winter break because I read like 9 just kind of fucking downer books. And I don't remember if they were all like American books is the problem. Like I read like Mayor of Casterbridge, and that was a fucking downer. And again, it's like that is another book that reminds me a lot of this because just like how the main character sort of is. Again, is very, Daniel Plainview is a character that I think if you've read any like classic literature, you've read a character that's very similar to this.
Yeah, that it is maybe one of the best sort of interpretations of a book in a movie in some ways.
I mean, I haven't read Oil, but
right, but you know what I mean, though. That, it keeps reminding you of books, and that books are so often, I suppose, about the internal monologues or dialogues of characters and their thoughts and stuff. And by not having so much dialogue in this and not very much explaining to do, it is contemplative in that way that books are.
Right, and I think like it uses the score to sort of like be like, this is what the character is thinking.
Yeah.
It's not so much like, maybe it's not so much like what you should be feeling. It's like, this is what the character is thinking.
Yeah, just like the filmmaking choices of,
right,
showing single stuff and taking your time is experience what these characters experience. Yeah. But like deeply and intensely.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. There are there's some great lines that I wrote down. I don't remember what the context was, but Daniel Plainview says, "Don't be thick in front of me, Al." I think it's when they're trying to debate how to get that one farm they haven't gotten. Yeah, and he says, "Why don't you build it around the mountains?" He's like, "Build it around 200 miles of this such and such mountain. Don't be thick in front of me, Al."
Yeah,
it's great. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis is like magnificent. Have you watched any other Daniel Day-Lewis? Did you watch Lincoln?
I did not. No. Oh. See, I try to avoid like I tend to avoid like movies that I feel are going to be Oscar bait.
Oh yeah,
and I feel like a lot of times that includes movies like Lincoln, where it's like a historical sort of thing.
I think it's a good.
It's probably also why I didn't watch Phantom Thread. Yeah, because like, oh, what the fuck does that mean? Yeah. And then, like, as soon as it has any Oscar buzz around it, I just don't want to go see it.
You're like, peace out. Yeah. I feel similarly, but I would say to that, I think maybe don't, like, approach it as Oscar bait, because there are some, like, there are legit Oscar baity. Like, I feel like a movie that I didn't watch and I don't want to watch, more because of, like, the director's stuff, is, what's that Queen movie? Bohemian Rhapsody. Like that felt like a very clear, like,
is that Bryan Singer? No.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't want to watch it. Is that he like sort of directed it, and then like left,
and then got fired because he's a pedophile.
But also like because he didn't show up to set.
Oh yeah,
like, he just like didn't show up. Anyways. Yeah, so I think there are movies like that, and then there are legit movies like Phantom Thread, like this one, like Lincoln, that are actually legitimately good,
and they kind of get
fall into that trap of.
I think like the thing is that like I need to give myself like time away from like Oscar season.
Yeah,
like so in like a couple of years I could go watch those movies and be like, oh, this is a good movie, but like at the time, like,
or if you like discover it all on your own,
right? Yeah,
like when I watched when I got into. Like The Lobster and that guy's movies. Like I watched The Favorite just because I really like him and not because it was like a big Oscar thing.
Yeah.
Like I think that changed my enjoyment. But yeah, I totally agree with you that the whole like Oscar,
you can kind of tell
fanfare.
Like they'll come around like December, because they want it to be fresh in the voters' minds.
It'll be like some big director or actor. And they'll be like on a bunch of talk shows
like,
now.
They'll be like, they're so transformative in this role.
Yeah, but I mean Daniel Day-Lewis, and then also I just watched the first episode of Big Little Lies, and Meryl Streep is in that.
Oh, okay.
And she's like just something else, like like an actor possessed, which is like what I felt of Daniel Plainview and Daniel Day-Lewis in this role. Like he just like felt possessed of that character.
Yeah.
And then like I mean the big thing is like watching them as real people, as they sound and behave very differently.
Right.
But yeah, I mean he's just so good.
Yeah. Very good performances by everyone, I think.
Yeah. Paul Dano's great.
Yeah, Paul Dano is wonderful.
Because I feel like playing meek is often hard, like subdued and kind of whiny, I guess. Like I feel like a lot of actors wouldn't.
It's hard to do it without being
like,
annoying. I think.
Yeah,
and like he borders on annoying, but I don't think it's like because of him per se. It's like
he doesn't turn the page into obnoxious.
Yeah.
Which I think is a very easy
important
thing
distinction.
for people to do. Okay, well, we're almost done here. I just got a couple of stuff. Yeah, okay. Getting to the end. That whole ending scene, like after his son comes to see him and like say goodbye or whatever, that was kind of fun. I mean, it was a bummer. It was fun to see him shooting the weapon, the gun, just like down his hallway.
Right. Do you remember the first Sherlock Holmes movie with Robert Downey Jr.? Where he was like shooting it into the wall. Yeah,
into
like that. Yeah. Reminded me of that.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Yeah, that was great.
What movie came out first? I probably think this one. I think that one came out in 2008.
Yeah, or maybe 9. Yeah, around the same time though. But but then when Eli comes and they have their final showdown, I mean, I drink your milkshake, I drink it up is a classic line.
Yeah, that whole scene is fantastic. But
all the writing in that is like feels iconic to me in a way.
Sure, yeah.
Like that whole scene, I'd love to see like a stage production of that for some reason.
I mean, it feels like I don't know why you'd need to. I mean, it basically is a stage production,
right?
Like it's like
and it's
the
so
camera
good.
is like completely static through like that whole thing pretty much.
Yeah.
But it would play out identically.
Yeah,
because they don't do anything like that would necessitate. They don't like they're not doing a bunch of like
it's not very frenetic. It's a very slow build to a quick murder.
Yeah.
But my favorite is when Daniel Day-Lewis says drainage.
Yeah.
Like his whole body gets into him saying that single word, and it's just so good.
Yeah.
It was great. So I wish that was the quote that this movie is remembered by. I mean, I drink your milkshake, I drink it up is okay. But drainage.
They're both great. You know, it's
yeah. And then his final line, I'm finished.
Yeah.
And the music starts. Dun da 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 dun da da da. It's great. So good.
Yeah.
All right. You have anything else you want to say?
No, I got nothing.
Right, cool.
Yep. I think I touched on all the points I wanted to make.
Hang on, let me get to this note. What are you going to rate this bad boy, Kjarvin?
It's tough. Again, I think my viewing experience was hampered. I had like a really bad headache throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was not like I didn't have a headache because of the movie. Like it started like probably 20 minutes before I was going to start watching.
Yeah.
But it did not help my enjoyment. And so I'm not really sure, like, thinking back, I'm like, oh, that movie was painful. And it's like, oh, wait, was that because my head hurt or because the movie, like, just kind of makes you uncomfortable or, like, a whole other host of things? Again, like,
yeah,
I think I should see it again before, like, actually giving it, like, a solid rating.
Yeah.
So I think, like, 7.5 is, like, a placeholder because, like, it's definitely not poorly made. There's a lot of things that I really enjoyed. Enjoyed is weird. I don't know if I would say appreciated, I think is a better term because like this movie is not enjoyable in like the sense where it's like it's not fun,
right?
You know, it's like you appreciate the things that are happening and you get like sucked into it and like you know it's very like powerful and moving and all these sorts of things, but again, not fun. So I think it could go up to like, you know, if I watched it again and pick up on more things, it could go up to like a 9.5 probably.
Yeah,
that's the upper
in the right mood.
That
this is another kind of mood or experience based thing that like I feel like you got to carve out the 2.5 hours.
Like I watched it on my laptop, which like I don't think does it justice at all. Not that like it, you know, it doesn't. You're not like immersed as well as when you're watching it on.
I mean, it's a pretty good big screen movie. I feel like.
Yeah. It's like that, especially like you know the shot of the fire going up. Like, that whole scene would feel a lot more impactful and powerful if it wasn't like you know on my 11-inch laptop.
Yeah. All right. So 7.5 from you. This is another 10 from me. Been on a real hot streak.
Yeah.
Pour moi. Yeah. Just because like I'd watched it before. And
what do you think? You think that you would have given it a 10 right out of the gate?
The first time I watched it? Oh, yeah, definitely.
You didn't like appreciate it more upon, or like...
I think I felt the same way of like I wanted to watch it again, but like just so I could catch everything again.
Right.
Like I feel like the first movie that ever happened to me was the first time I watched The Prestige. Is like I was like, I have to watch this again.
Sure.
Because first off, it'll like finally make more sense, and like I get the whole joke of it. Or I mean, not the joke, the twist of it.
I get it. Yeah.
The whatever that is.
The prestige.
Yeah, the prestige of all of it.
Yep.
And this was another movie of like, wow, from the minute go, I was like, oh man, I love all these choices that are being made. I enjoy this filmmaking style. Yeah. I'd already been searching out Paul Thomas Anderson stuff because I appreciated him. And this felt like bigger than a lot of his other movies and like different. So right out of the gate, I felt like... I just on a really cool ride, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I would enjoy it more on subsequent viewings.
Yeah.
Just like because I would pick up on what's happening. I could like focus more on like actual choices being made and not like trying to decipher like a plot that's not being like explicitly laid out.
Yeah, and this was another one of like I did know a little bit of background. Like I think I had listened to that episode of I Was There Too already. Sure. So like I knew that little context of there was somebody I already liked in this movie.
Right.
And
however brief.
Yeah, and like I already knew about the score was pretty just like I think I'd like looked up Johnny Greenwood's kind of stuff. So like I feel like I knew a little bit of information, and for me I actually like going into movies like that.
Knowing a little bit
especially
about it.
Movies like this. Like again, the ultimate one for me, I don't know if I mentioned it on here, but was Blade Runner. That like I knew most of what Blade Runner was. That helped. Like I know for sure I would have just been so confused if I watched it.
Blade
cold.
Runner is a very confusing movie. Watching it, and not knowing anything about it, it doesn't seem to make any sense.
Especially depending on like how much you know about film. Because also I watched this as like kind of a study in film, like a film study sort of experiment, I guess. There Will Be Blood was for me. So like I was looking out for like directorial choices and editing and music and that type of stuff.
Right.
And this is just like chock full of all of that sort of craft based stuff.
Right.
Yeah. It was a 10 for me. Right. What?
Anything else?
No.
Okay. Good.
What movie are we watching next, Kjorvin?
I haven't decided yet.
Oh, I thought you wanted to watch Always Be My Maybe.
Oh yeah, we can do that. I already watched it.
I already watched it too.
Okay, great.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Right,
Maybe I'll watch it again. Probably won't. I'll just go from what I remembered. That'll be fine. Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Sure, we can talk about that movie next.
Right. So next episode is Always Be My Maybe.
Yeah.
Always Be My Maybe?
Yeah, you'll always
No, I think it's Always Be My Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. The Netflix movie with Ali Wong and fake Jim. Asian Jim. He's probably okay with us calling him that.
I feel like he has to be the most well known for that little bit.
Randall Park. I got it.
Wow, that's good. I can't believe you picked that up.
Sweet.
Out of your brain somewhere.
Yeah. All right.
Wow.
So stay tuned for that. Also, maybe another special episode coming sometime soon that Kevin doesn't know about. Don't worry about it. I'll tell you later. You can follow us.
Is that when we review Dark Phoenix?
Yeah, maybe.
No. The movie looks fucking awful.
No, I'm going to talk to you off mic. Shut up, Kevin. Let me do our end crawl.
You can do the thing.
Follow us on at HowAboutPod on Twitter and on the Gramsies. You can email us at the email address of howaboutpod@gmail.com. And you can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/howaboutpod. That'd be cool. And rate and review us on the iTunes, aka Apple Music. Give us a 5-star review and then write whatever comments you want. Like, we don't care. You can tell us we're a couple of dum-dums. That's fine. Just give us 5 stars. We want those 5 stars. Please give us those 5 stars. Anyways, all right. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.